Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our latest Ask the Leaders Facebook Live Q&A. My name is Darryl Smalley, and I'm the Executive Member for Culture, Leisure and Communities at the Council. Some of you will already know that the Council's held a number of these Facebook Live sessions now, covering a range of topics from the latest public health advice to the reopening of the city. Today, once again, we're joined by representatives from public health and the business sectors to discuss the news announced by the government yesterday that York will be placed in Tier 2 restrictions from next week. Tonight we'll be taking a closer look at what this means for our residents and businesses, along with the available guidance, latest data, available support, and the city's ongoing coronavirus response. I'd like to begin by thanking everyone in the city, residents and businesses, for their incredible efforts in driving the virus down across York. York's rate of infection remains the lowest in Yorkshire and the Humber region, and well below the national average too. This year has been an exceptionally difficult year for everyone, and we're grateful to residents and businesses across the city that have gone to great lengths to adapt to protect our city. Whilst yesterday's news is certainly disappointing, we must continue all our efforts to drive our rates even lower and to see these tougher restrictions lifted. I know that a lot has been asked of everyone in the city, and we are all extremely grateful for your work. And as a council, we're here to support you as best we can. Our community hubs are still running, and anyone needing support can contact our helpline on York 551 550 or at email on covid19help@york.gov.uk, where our incredible volunteers and staff will be able to help you, and that's whether you need assistance with collecting shopping or simply need advice on what the restrictions mean for you. With the national lockdown restrictions lifted, residents will once again be able to enjoy and visit York's fantastic array of local shops, and with Christmas in mind, we would all strongly encourage residents to shop local and support our business community throughout this difficult period. It's clear that some of our city's businesses that the new Tier 2 restrictions will come as a real blow for many in our local hospitality and retail businesses who have worked incredibly hard to keep our city and residents safe. Financial help through the government's grants is available, and we're working hard to quickly and efficiently distribute this. It is, however, clear that for many businesses, this will simply not be enough to sustain them through what will be a crucial period for retail and hospitality. We will continue to work with the city's businesses and partners to ensure that all that's possible is done to protect livelihoods and jobs across York. In turn, the government must also step up and introduce comprehensive support to aid the council's efforts in retaining employment in the city and supporting businesses across all sectors. Although the coming weeks will not be easy, and despite the challenges of this year, York has demonstrated what it does best, residents coming together and supporting each other. It's crucial that we continue in this spirit and work together over the coming weeks and months. Let's continue to support one another, shop local, and most importantly, stay safe. Now I'll stop there and just go round the panel, if that's okay, for everyone to introduce themselves. Now Zoom, it always looks different on everyone's screen, so I'm not picking people out. It's just how it looks on my screen. And I'll go first to Anthony. Oh, you just just on mute.
Well, good evening. My name's Anthony Davison. I'm head of nursing for North Yorkshire and York for Tea Desk and the Vale Foundation Trust.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Sharon?
Hello, everyone. I'm Sharon Stolz. I'm Director of Public Health for York.
Thanks so much, Sharon. Nigel?
Hello, I'm Nigel Wells. I work as a GP and I'm the clinical chair of the Vale York CCP.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Nigel. Andrew? Andrew Lowson, that is.
Yep, Andrew Lowson. I'm the Exec Director of the York Business Improvement District, representing around about 1,000 businesses in the city centre.
Thanks ever so much, Andrew. We've had this problem of having two Andrews before, haven't we? So I should have got used to it by now. Neil?
I'm Neil Ferris. I'm the Corporate Director for Economy and Place, and I work for the City of York Council.
Thanks so much, Neil. The other Andrew Waller.
Councillor Andrew Waller, Executive Member for Economy and Strategic Planning.
Thanks so much, Andrew. And Sean.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Sean Bullick, Managing Director of Make It York.
Thanks so much, everyone. And so for those that haven't watched one of these live Q&As before, we have had quite a few questions submitted in advance by residents, and we'll start to go through those first. But absolutely, please do ask questions as we go through, just live on Facebook, and we have people behind the scenes that will try and get those questions to us, and we'll try and answer them live. First, however, if I may, can I turn to Sharon as Director of Public Health to give us a up-to-date review on the situation in York and the guidance with the Tier 2 restrictions coming in. Over to you, Sharon.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smalley. What I'm going to do is just give a bit of an overview of where we are in terms of the pandemic in York. And then I'm going to hand over to Dr. Nigel Wells, who will be able to say something about where we are with the seasonal flu vaccination programme, which I know many people are interested in, and where we are in York with planning for the COVID vaccination as well, because I'm sure people will be interested in that as well. So in terms of where we are in York, we're continuing to do very well in terms of controlling the pandemic here. Our numbers of COVID cases are continuing to fall, and they're falling across all age groups, which is really, really positive. And the number of tests that are coming back positive is also going down. So when we look at our COVID case rate and our positivity rate, which is the number of tests coming back as positive, we are lower than regional and national averages, which is great. And those numbers continue to head in the right direction. So thank you to everyone for all of your hard work in helping York get to that position. It's excellent. When we're then looking at where we've had outbreaks of infection in York, we're doing pretty well there as well. We work very closely with care homes, very closely with schools, universities and workplaces across York. We're not seeing big outbreaks of infection at all. We're working with about 4 care homes at the moment who have had kind of instances of infection. We're working very closely with them, and we haven't had any school outbreaks. So again, York doing very much better than many of the surrounding areas. However, we are starting to see an increase in hospital activity. Those numbers have been increasing slowly, started to go up about 2 weeks ago. The hope is that the lockdown that we've just experienced will have had an impact in bringing those numbers down. Nigel will say something about that in a minute. So generally, a very positive picture, which I'm really very pleased about. Our local contact tracing service, which we set up a few weeks ago, continues to do very well. And we are working on our plans to submit to government to do more enhanced testing of residents as well, including residents who may have the COVID infection but aren't showing symptoms, the asymptomatic testing that I'm sure many people will have read and heard about. So we're developing those plans at the moment, and they will all be really useful tools that we can use to carry on seeing that reduction in numbers in York. But I'll stop there. There's a couple of other questions later on where I'll be able to say a little bit more about some of that. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Nigel Wells. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Absolutely right that the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic has hit the north very hard, and that's why we've seen increased rates over the last month or so, and that's knocked on into the hospital admissions that we've seen. The hope is that with the levels flattering, then those hospital admissions then do start to come down. And York Hospital has been working very hard to prioritise their capacity to help with those admissions, whilst doing all the other work that they need to do around the referrals and the needs of our residents. And they've also been extending help out to other hospitals as well around the region, like all other hospitals would do. Primary care is, so that's your GP practices, are as busy as ever, and they are open. And as we've already been talking here before, that's mostly now on a first contact through the telephone or video, and then face-to-face consultations if required. And GP practices are reporting that they have staff absences because of COVID, but they are coping, but it is very, very busy. And that's the same in the sector of mental health as well. Going on to the flu vaccinations, flu vaccination uptake has been very good this year, as you can understand. And the primary care has really stepped up, as well as the pharmacies, to do that for our residents. The recent information is that the 50 to 64-year-olds will be next offered the vaccinations. However, the vaccinations haven't come through yet. The supply hasn't come through. So the details around that haven't yet been put out around when that will be. Going on to the COVID vaccinations and the COVID vaccination programme, all very promising news, and as we'll know nationally, that's gone out to regulators to see when and how that can be rolled out. And the whole of the NHS is gearing up for that. But at the minute, we're in that planning phase, and York's in a very good position with the mass vaccination site for flu, and of course that could be used if it becomes self-appropriate for COVID vaccinations going forward. So hopefully that's a quick snapshot for you, and I'll hand back to Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nigel. Sharon, was there anything to add, or do you want me to?
No, I don't think so. There are a couple of other questions coming up, aren't there, that will go into a bit more the detail of why we're in Tier 2, etc.
That's brilliant. We'll scoot on with some of the pre-submitted questions, and then absolutely we'll come back to some more questions for Sharon. And I've seen, thank you to those that are commenting live on Facebook. We will, I promise, come to your questions. Firstly, though, we've had a question pre-submitted about, and that was about, will businesses still be able to apply for previous grants following the new announcement? I guess, would I be able to go to Andrew Lowson first on that, and then if anyone else wants to come in, just say.
Yeah, I mean, a relatively quick answer to this. And I mean, I think first and foremost, I think, yes, we all know it's confusing. There's been different levels of grants now, because obviously we're in a tier system before the lockdown. We then went into lockdown. We're exiting a tier system, so it's perfectly understandable. This is not an easy thing for people to compute sometimes. So I think myself and partners, I mean, what we've tried to do is almost try to make it easy by saying there's one place where locally this information is held, and that is on the council website, which I think is from an objective perspective very clear, which is www.york.gov.uk COVID-19 business grants, and hopefully things are mapped out there. In answer to the specific question, yes, you can still apply for those grants, because obviously we were in those tiered systems just before we went into lockdown, and that support is you can apply for that. It's applicable. Obviously there was then the lockdown grants, which again, that is something which, there's an application process for that for those who are able to receive it. And I think Neil might back me up on this one, that obviously we're going to be going back into the tiers. Now, if you previously went through the paperwork for the previous tier system, that will actually be taken forward to the new ones. But if you haven't done that, there's still the opportunity to apply for that as we go into the new system. So I hope I've explained that as simple as I can do. Neil's nodding, so I'll take that as a yes.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andrew. And I know we've all got examples and all heard from businesses. I think yesterday it was a B&B, and the day before I was speaking to a theatre group. And I know it is incredibly complicated, but hopefully the council website is a good point of information where all that information about grants coalesces. We've had another question. It might be back to you, Andrew. It was, can pubs serve non-alcoholic drinks to customers not eating food? Do you want to come in on that, if that's okay?
Yes, I suppose look at it a little bit wider in terms of how the news impacted the city yesterday. I think we're all aware that whilst we have a lot of pubs that obviously have a food offering, and I'm sure they'll be looking to make the most of the coming weeks. There are also a lot of pubs which very popular ones in York, because let's face it, we've got a lot of quirky buildings, quaint drinking establishments that purely serve alcohol. And without a food offering, that they obviously don't have a way of trading. So that was certainly, in terms of one of the setbacks about yesterday's news, I have to say, we heard a lot from those businesses, and it will be tough for them. Coming again to this particular question, there is going to be further guidance going out about this. I think at the end of the day, really, if you are a pub that purely serves alcohol, or a range of drinks, i.e. just serves drinks, I don't think really many of those will be looking to open if it was just soft drinks, because obviously their customer base are people who want to come and try the selection of real ales, etc. they have. Just to open for soft drinks, I suspect you'd find most landlords saying that's not financially viable, and it's not really what their traditional customer base would want.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Neil, do you want to come in?
Just to add to that, I think as well, those establishments that are open and serving food, they'll be looking to serve customers who are partaking of food, because obviously that's part of what's making their business viable. So to go into those premises and just drink soft drinks, I don't think is going to be a tenable support for those businesses on a local level either.
Thanks so much, Neil. And I know all our institutions are all doing a significant amount of lobbying, making these points that have been fed back to us. Just before we carry on with some of the questions we've had in advance, we've just had a question from Martin just now in the chat. It says, how will you control the volume of tier 3 visitors coming into York for Christmas drinking when we return to tiered restrictions? He knows that they shouldn't be leaving their area, but how will that be controlled? Possibly. Yes, thank you, Sharon. Thanks so much.
Thank you for that question, Martin. I've been asked this question already over the last 24 hours, and I know it is something that is concerning a number of people. The short answer is we can't control the number of people coming in to the city, because people will drive in. The police, I'm sure, will do what they can to monitor movements of people. But if people want to come into the city, there's little we can do to stop them. What I will say, though, is our businesses in York have worked incredibly hard to make themselves COVID secure. And we've worked very closely with businesses across the city. We've been doing site visits, mystery shopping to check that businesses, including pubs, restaurants, etc., have done their COVID risk assessments and that they've put in place measures so that customers are safe. We have not had to take any enforcement action up to now, and the partnership work between public health, the public protection team within the council and businesses has been very positive. And so I would just want to give that reassuring message to residents and people who do want to go out in the city and visit those places that are open, and they are safe places to be. And there's very little evidence that pubs and restaurants are a particular source of spread of infection because of the COVID secure measures they've put in place. So and that work will obviously continue over the coming months So hopefully that is a reassuring message for people.
Thanks so much, Sharon. We've got Andrew. We'll go to Andrew Lowson first, then to Sean, and then to Neil, if that's okay. So over to you, Andrew.
I think just with regard to the question which had come in from, well, Martin, I think, yeah, just a couple of things to reassure. I mean, when we were in the previous tiered systems before lockdown, we'd actually had a lot of questions from, people in the restaurant trade, etc., asking these questions. And actually, we were quite heartened to hear how many of them were being very diligent, because they'd been saying, I'd had some people wanted to book from X destination and I've had to turn them away. Is that the right thing to do? And I think, don't forget that businesses themselves, really want to protect their staff. They want to protect their reputation. So I think, a lot of them are vetting who their customers are. So I think that should give a bit of reassurance. And I think also, just very briefly, I mean, we do actually, we're getting data now from anonymous data from O2, and we can actually understand who's coming to the city. And again, when we're in the tiered systems, just to reassure, there wasn't many people travelling out of tier 3 areas coming to York, and the fact that actually we have that information that we could monitor means that if we did feel it was a problem, again, the partners could come together and see if there's a way of remedying that.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Sean.
So reinforcing both Andrew and Sharon's points, really, the businesses obviously have an incentive to make sure that they're COVID secure. They have been incredibly innovative in ensuring that they can be. Hundreds of businesses in York have got the good to go accreditation now, which means that they have taken a whole range of steps to make sure they're secure. And then finally, just an obvious point, really, Martin, we're not marketing to anybody outside the area at all, so there'll be no encouragement for people to come in, although of course, as Sharon says, we can't physically stop them.
Thanks so much, Sean. Neil.
Again, just further reassurance to the public at large about the compliance in the city. This week, the council has recruited the 4 COVID marshals. The government have provided additional funding so that the authority can provide advice to the public as they move about the city. So those marshals should be out and about on the streets when we come out of lockdown into that tiered system. I think there's the question around why is you're in tier 1, not in tier 2, not tier 1. I think part of that is the rationale about as Sharon has said, the permeability of our boundaries from tier 3 areas. So it means that we've got an opportunity, as Andrew said, as businesses to effectively vet people who are looking to come to our businesses in the city, and those COVID marshals can take more appropriate action with people who are walking about the city as well.
Thanks so much, Neil. I hope that's reassuring to obviously the questioner, but also a lot of people out there. Just whilst we're talking about tiers, take the opportunity. We've had a question from Debbie. Debbie says the R number is below 1, so why is York in tier 2? Now I know that lots of people are asking lots of things about the tier system over the last few days, but I don't know if I could perhaps go to Sharon first on that, but if anyone else wants to come in, so you're more than welcome.
So we are getting lots of questions about this, and we said at the start, and actually we've issued statements to say how disappointed we are that York has gone into tier 2, because I think we were all hoping that we would be in tier 1. I suppose, just to put that in context, there are only 3 areas in the country that have gone into tier 1. That's Cornwall, Isles of Scilly and Isle of Wight. The rest of the country is in tier 2 or tier 3. So there is something positive to be taken from that. And also York and North Yorkshire are the only areas in our region that have gone into tier 2. The other areas have gone into tier 3. So I suppose it's about taking that in context, really. Might be helpful for people to understand a little bit more about how the decisions that, which areas people were putting to tiers, the information that the government was looking at. So the government weren't just looking at the numbers of COVID cases that there was in an area. They were looking at what's called the case detection rates in age groups. So looking across the population and looking at where cases were rising or falling in different age groups. Now, York had a very high number of young people who were testing positive for COVID when we went into tier 2, the old tier 2, before the national lockdown that we've had over the last 4 weeks. Our numbers in those younger age groups have fallen hugely. When you look at the graph, we've had a really dramatic downward trend in the numbers in younger age groups. But we've not seen as big a drop in case numbers in older people, people over 60. And that was one of the indicators the government looked at. They also then looked at the positivity rate. And so our positivity rate at the moment is just over 7%. It is much lower than the national and regional rates. But the WHO, the World Health Organization, advise that an area needs to have a rate of under 5% before there can be any confidence that the virus is being suppressed in the community, and that we're not seeing the spread of infection in the community. So our rate is heading in the right direction, but we're not quite below that 5% yet. So there's a bit more work to do. And then the other measure the government was looking at is pressure on the NHS. And as we heard from Nigel earlier, even though not all of the patients in York Hospital will be York residents because of the population flows across the health service, but there have been concerns about pressures on the hospital and pressures in GP practices as well. So the government will have looked at all of that when they were making a decision about what tier areas went into. Now we've gone into tier 2, but we know we're heading in the right direction. So if we carry on doing what we've been doing, now we're getting our contact tracing online, we'll be having our local asymptomatic testing online, hopefully before Christmas. All of those measures, with everybody working together as we have been, will help us push our rates down even further. And then when those numbers are reviewed on the 16th of December, hopefully we'll have a different outcome for York. If not then, when they're reviewed again in January. So it's still an overall positive picture for York, even though we're all a little bit disappointed.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and thank you for detailing how our route out. I know there'll be a lot of people counting down the days to those reviews, and I know we've all got our fingers crossed. Just going quickly to some of our pre-submitted questions that we've had in advance. We've had a question about what do the new tier system mean for gyms, exercise, and leisure businesses. I'd just like to answer that myself, but obviously if anyone wants to come in, please do. And across all tiers, that's 1, 2, and 3, all businesses and venues that are allowed to be open in those sectors, but obviously have to follow the COVID-19 secure guidelines to protect customers, visitors, and workers. And leisure sporting facilities such as gyms, courts, leisure centres, fitness and dance studios, from golf courses to swimming pools, riding centres and outdoor playgrounds will be able to open, subject to the social contact rules in each tier. And we are expecting more detailed guidance to come from the government to help businesses, and we'll do our best to share these as quickly as we can. But we would ask all business owners in that sector to keep an eye on york.gov.uk/coronavirus, and obviously the relevant government website. And I'll just say personally, I know I had the great pleasure of going around Yearsley Pool and Energise Leisure Centre, and actually the new gym and facility at the stadium, and looking already at the measures that they're putting in place, from turning up the ventilation over the swimming pool to looking at staff structure to make sure that they're kept protected in relevant bubbles. Just looking at how a couple of leisure centres have really put so much effort in place. with that, I'll just come to a question on that we've had live. Amanda's asked, are you supporting more outlets to have outdoor seating to ensure we can support businesses while staying safe? I know I think I saw on Twitter the other day about, is it in New York, where they're taking it all incredibly seriously. But perhaps, I don't know who would like to come in first. Neil, is that okay? And then if anyone else wants to come in. Please.
So the council's issued over 80 street cafe licenses since the COVID regulations came in. This relaxed the need for businesses to have planning permission. It also reduced the fees associated with those cafe licenses. And the council took emergency action back in July to extend the city's foot streets so that those cafes could exist both on the footpath, but also in the highway itself, to give capacity, greater capacity for your businesses. And the executive last night in council decided to extend those foot street arrangements until the end of September next summer. So that's great news from a business perspective in the city, and maybe Andrew wants to just comment on that, the fact that with that trading arrangement could continue right through to next summer now with those cafe licenses.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hopefully a good demonstration of good partner working in the city, because obviously the bid was able to kind of, well, bring businesses together to almost like understand what they wanted for their areas, and then obviously the highways team at the council were able to kind of work with them. So, for example, if you've ever been down Castlegate recently, you'll see the businesses there. You know, there's been a partial road closure to allow them the streets to be a little bit more, well, obviously conducive to wandering around. There's some little outdoor areas. So yes, it's worked well. It's been appreciated by businesses. I think, you know, winter brings, you know, challenges, because a lot of that work was done this summer, and yes, you know, sitting outside in some of the British winter, you know, I think what businesses are looking at, and again, it's been disrupted a little bit because of lockdown. I think a few businesses are looking at, you know, what is suitable, because obviously there may be, you know, a heated area, making it a bit more watertight, etc. So I know a few businesses are looking to see what's possible out of that. But yes, I mean, I think it's quite crucial, because we're still not quite sure. You know, obviously with all the positive news of vaccines, etc. You know, I think a lot of businesses are still wanting to look at those outdoor options, because what was very evident from the summer was that actually, even when you sometimes had an indoor option that people could use, actually they liked using outdoor. I think they felt safe outdoor. The College Green project that, again, the bid and the council did, I mean, we had a teepee and hardly anybody used the inside. They all wanted to be outside. So I think that, you know, we will have a bit of a legacy of people wanting that outdoor, almost like al fresco experience. And I think actually for the long run, that can be a benefit to York.
I had a couple of drinks at College Green. It was a fantastic little setup, that. And I'll get my box of jumpers and cagoules out in anticipation for these pavement cafe licenses. We've just a question we've had in advance, which I might go to Neil on, if that's okay. Was what are the rules on working in people's houses? And the questioner themselves fits kitchens. So Neil, do you want to come on that?
So the rules are that work and that activity can continue. The council has over 7,000 of its own properties that it's landlord for in the city, so our electricians, joiners, plumbers are all continuing to work in those domestic premises to make sure people can continue to live in their houses in a safe manner. But all I would ask all the tradesmen to do is obviously be cognizant of the advice about safe working in those homes. So look up, make sure you've got the appropriate advice, the appropriate PPE before you go into somebody else's home to undertake that business repair.
Thank you so much, Neil. Just another question that's quite broad, and it might spur off a few other questions from those watching this evening. And that is, what support is there available for businesses forced to stay closed due to the restrictions, and how and where can people apply for government grants and business support? And what sort of businesses can apply for those grants? Councillor Waller, would I be able to go to you first on this one, and then I'm sure others might want to join in.
Right, in answer to that question, there are a number of different grants available at the moment from the period that we were in Tier 2 before lockdown, and obviously we'll be in tier 2 after lockdown. And there are some discretionary grants that the systems have been through an executive member decision session by Councillor Eyre in terms of supporting those businesses that were either directly ordered by government to close or saw significant decrease in their footfall because of the consequences of tier 2. And then after lobbying from City York Council and others for those businesses that were affected further down the supply chain, that whilst they themselves had not been instructed to close, that they supplied businesses that had, and therefore they were in a difficult situation. So the limit that had previously been applied of £51,000 in business rate value, that has thankfully been lifted. There were a number of locations where this was stopping them getting a grant, and at least this time it has been lifted, and there are some sectoral supports for businesses that have been previously not included in the government list, but listeners can appreciate that all of the funding that we had for previous grants has been distributed, and we are rapidly distributing the latest round of grants.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Unless anybody wants to come in on that, we've had a question just now in the chat on Facebook, and it's from Michelle, and Michelle asks, why is Elvington in tier 2 but Sutton upon Derwent is in tier 3? Both only have one pub and haven't had any cases. I don't know who would like to come in on this. I might guess with Sharon, if that's okay. Thank you so much.
I think it's because of the geography that the government used to allocate tiers. So it's based on which local authority you live in. So Sutton upon Derwent falls under East Riding Council, and they've gone into tier 3, which is why there is that difference. I know it's frustrating for people, and there's been lots of chatter on social media today about that, with people feeling quite angry in some cases and upset and struggling to understand why they've been put in a particular tier. But it is down to which local authority you live in. And so if you happen to live in a county council area, so if we take North Yorkshire, very big county, whether you live in Harrogate or whether you live in Selby or Scarborough, it makes no difference. If you're in the North Yorkshire County Council area, everybody's gone into tier 2. And that's just how the government has decided to allocate the tiers. There is, you can look up on the BBC website, put in your postcode and it will tell you which tier you're in. And it's basically based on which council you pay your council tax to, as to which tier that you've been put in.
Thank you ever so much, Sharon, and I hope that answers your question, Michelle. The lovely world of local government boundaries that so often is the answer to these weird and wonderful ways in which the government works. Just going back to questions we've had in advance, a question that's come through that, and the questioner asks, they can see the council will be given discretionary funding to support businesses, and they ask just how is the council intending to use this money. If I can, could I go to Neil first, and then potentially over to Councillor Waller?
So the council's been given a discretionary lump of money to deal with lockdown. So just so everybody's clear at home, it's only for lockdown, not for the tier systems. So it won't be applying next week. And we've been given a fixed lump of money that has effectively got to last us until the end of the COVID crisis. So our councillors have had to make a difficult decision of how much to allocate in the lockdown that we're currently in. and they've made a decision to allocate that to businesses in York that don't have a rateable property, but would otherwise have been instructed to close down by the government. So effectively your business has been closed, but you've not got a rateable value. And that applies, for example, in some cases where a business isn't the rate payer. That allows those businesses to claim. Also, if your business is in the supply chain to those businesses that have been asked to lock down. So for example, if your business supplied menus to restaurants and you are a York-based business, and that's impacted your revenues by over 75%, then again, you will be eligible for that grant. The council has also determined that it's going to allocate an amount of that £4 million to provide support for small businesses to adapt to the ongoing COVID crisis. And that will be in a form of a voucher scheme where we can provide managerial project training or IT training to small businesses so that they can help become more resilient as we go through the lockdown. And then there's been a small allocation, again, looking forward to the spring and hopefully when the vaccine is upon us, where we can start to support businesses by having events in the city and support businesses that put on those attractors so that we could become, again, a vibrant city as quickly as we possibly can as we hopefully head into the spring and that period where we're benefiting from a vaccine.
Thank you so much, Neil. Just noticed our next question is along a very similar theme. And the question was, beyond the money announced by the government, what support is there out there for small businesses? I know there's a couple of our panelists that might want to come in on this, but perhaps would you mind, Sean, if I went to you first? Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Darryl. Yes, unfortunately, Make It York doesn't have pots of cash to support businesses with, although we certainly do have advice and assistance of various sorts. So please do look at the Make It York website. Beyond that, I think the other really key source of assistance other than CYC is the local enterprise partnership. So the York and North Yorkshire LEP do have all sorts of really valuable assistance and expertise. So do look at their website and they can help with everything from helping businesses get online through to training needs, pivoting businesses, marketing support, that sort of thing. So the York and North Yorkshire LEP, have a look at their website.
Thank you so much, Sean. Neil.
Just a quick one as well. So for those small businesses operating in the city, there's a Federation of Small Businesses that the council supported through the grants earlier on in the year to provide free membership to over 1,000 businesses. So if you're a member of the Federation of Small Businesses, they're providing an awful lot of support, again, to the SMEs in the city. So just give them a shout out. Caroline often supports us in these Facebook Lives as a council. So just thought that was important for you out there who are small businesses.
Thank you so much, Neil. Unless anybody else wants to come in on this question, move on to our next one, which was what emotional health guidance and training is there for employers to help their employees through this difficult time. Obviously, I know this has been an incredibly difficult time for many people out there. I don't know, Anthony, would you mind if I came to you first on this one, and then if anyone else wants to come in, please indicate.
Yeah, thanks, Darryl. I think you're right. I think it's been an incredible, difficult time, emotional time for so many people, for so many different reasons, both in their personal life and professional life. And I think it's just had a profound effect on everyone, in terms of this pandemic and the impact that it's had. I guess that the first advice I would give to someone is just really to think about how do you recognize signs and symptoms of if a person's struggling. And I guess for businesses, really just checking out with your staff. Are you noticing something different in that person? Is there a change in their manner, in their personality? Are you noticing that they're quieter than what they normally are? Generally, that's a sign that they're not coping very well. And And I guess the other thing I would say, which, and I know, you know, York City York Council is also promoting this, but there's many other organisations that are, is around just that feel real York, around asking people, are you okay? Just checking in with someone, how are you feeling? How are you coping? That is the best thing I can suggest for people who have no understanding of mental health. Asking someone, just checking in with them, are they okay, is probably the most important thing that I would suggest to do. It's really important. And also developing networks with other businesses, with your friends, with colleagues. Use the online system to just keep checking in with people, because a lot of people in this pandemic have felt really isolated and not knowing what to do. And there's so many people we've seen now, particularly in our organisation, that have never experienced mental health or an anxiety problem at all in their life. This pandemic has exacerbated that 100%, because so many people have struggled for so many different reasons due to this pandemic. So it's really important to be able to check in and recognise if we're not doing okay. I guess from our trust perspective, there's lots of things that we can do to help people who are struggling. The first thing I would say is visit your GP. If that check-in with a person is providing help, but you feel that they may need more help, go ask them, recommend that they go to the GP. If you need to go with them for that extra support, because it can be quite daunting talking about mental health, but just talk about it and say how you feel in an open and honest way. And the GP will make the right referral. In terms of our service, if you're experiencing anxiety or low mood, depression, as we may term it, we've got different programs in our organisation which the GP can refer you to. We also have online systems as well. So we have a recovery college. So anyone who's watching this tonight, if you wanted further advice, information, we have, if you type in on the internet, recovery college online, there's lots of advice and support on there. And I guess the other thing, just to finish with really, Darryl, is that we have a crisis advice and support line, which is out there, which people, if they're just struggling, need someone to talk to, or just some advice or support, you can use that helpline as well to support. So there's lots of things that you can do to support. The primary thing I would say is just talk, be open and honest and say how you're feeling, and don't suppress your feelings.
Thank you so much, Anthony, and I hope people watching, I hope we might be able to put those links in the chat so people can watch and we'll be able to get them easily. Nigel.
Just to pick up on Anthony's point, absolutely. As a GP, I would completely say, talk to each other, talk to your nearest and dearest, talk to your colleagues, understand how they feel, open up. And if you need to talk to other people, talk to them. You know, if you need to come talk to professionals, we are here to help you. I've seen a number of people that have got in touch with our services through online because they felt it easier to open up online. And I found that really interesting, that's been a way in, and that's really helped them. So there's lots of different ways in, picking up the phone, going online, but please, if you are struggling, and a lot of people are, and it's all right to struggle because we are going through an unprecedented time. And the people that haven't struggled before are struggling now. So it's okay to talk and to open up, because there is help and there is help out there. So I completely agree with Anthony.
Thank you so much, Nigel. Sharon.
Yes, I would echo what Anthony and Nigel has said. I just quickly wanted to say that the Outbreak Management Advisory Board in York, which is the partnership that is overseeing the city's pandemic response, have commissioned an emotional health and wellbeing campaign, which is live at the moment. They've pulled together into one place a lot of practical tips that people can do themselves to keep themselves emotionally fit. And those resources are all on the Live Well York website. So that's www.livewellyork.co.uk. So I would encourage people to check out those resources. Again, for employers, there are some resources there that you might find helpful for your staff. But obviously, if you're struggling and you need help, then as Anthony and Nigel have said, help is there. You just need to reach out for it.
Thank you so much, Sharon, Anthony, and Nigel. I know we've already had comments saying that was very helpful advice. So thank you ever so much, each of you. We've had a question on the rules, and you might not be able to answer this, Sharon, here now, but if not, I'm sure we can get back to this resident. Jane's asked, I belong to a private gym and have been concerned that whilst walking through the club, users are not wearing masks or social distancing. Is this in line with government advice? Yeah,
no, it isn't. No, it isn't. And in venues such as gyms, people shouldn't be mixing together outside their family or household bubble. They should be practicing social distancing, and the gym should be ensuring through their COVID risk assessment that people are following those social distancing guidelines. So if you're concerned about that at all, you can contact either the public protection team within the council or the public health team in the council. They work very closely together. So you can contact the inquiries.publichealth@york.gov.uk address or the public protection team address if you're concerned about that, and we can pick that up and respond. So please do contact us with any concerns.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Neil, did you want to come in?
Just to say, I think it was Amanda who was put that question to us. If she wants to, if it is a York gym, if she posts the details to us, we'll arrange for an environmental health or trading standards officer to visit, because as Sharon and Andrew have said earlier, it's really important that our businesses step up to the plate and advise their customers how to behave.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Neil, and I hope that helps, Jane. And Jane did say earlier that she wanted to thank you, Sharon, for your clear explanations about public health issues. So I hope that standard's been maintained there, and you'll have to add Jane to your Christmas card list, Sharon. Thank you so much for all of that. We've had a question in advance about Christmas, actually, and it was, can we confirm the rulings about eating out on Christmas Day and Boxing Day for people in a current support bubble, not in a Christmas bubble? Can people who are in a current support bubble still eat out on those 2 days? I hope that made sense. That's confusing as I said it, but as is the way with these things. Sharon, would you mind picking up that?
Yeah, so we're still trying to work through the Christmas guidance. So we're planning to do one of these sessions around Christmas, and also send out more information to residents about what they can do over Christmas. We're aiming to get that out as soon as possible, because obviously people will be wanting to plan meeting up with family, etc. over Christmas. And so rather than trying to go into detail about that now, just look out for another one of these sessions with the Christmas theme, and for some of the communications that we'll be sending out over the next week or so.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Nigel.
Yeah, I was just wanting to say, from an NHS point of view and public health point of view, you've got to remember that the virus hasn't gone away. And I know people have talked about this nationally, but we need to protect everybody. And I understand about Christmas, but I would just say, please protect yourself and your loved ones. And whatever you do, do it sensibly, because we don't want extra precautions or lockdowns coming in January, because we've got bigger pressure on the NHS and beds again. So I just want to say, please protect yourselves. That would be my plea.
Thank you so much, Nigel. And having Zoom sessions like this, you don't need all the comms officers in the background to meet like this over Christmas. And thank you, Sharon. As Sharon said, there will be will be plenty more of these Facebook Live Q&As before Christmas, including one on Monday. I don't know whether the one just before Christmas we all need to dress up or something, but we'll have to think about that outside these. I've just with an eye on time, and I know we've got 5 minutes left. I was just thinking it might be worth potentially if Andrew, Sean, both Andrews and Neil. I know this was a business specifically about business support. Given everything we've gone on, I don't know if perhaps each of you just had up to a minute, I guess, just on any last words of advice for businesses out there that might be watching and obviously might be struggling. Andrew, Lowson, do you mind if I go to you first?
I think, well, hopefully what you've gathered from tonight is there's lots of support out there. I mean, obviously, we've talked about, I mean, I do think there is a lot of networks in York. I mean, obviously, the bid covers the city centre, make it York wider, the LEP. So I'd encourage people, if they're ever worried about questions, there's people to contact. And obviously, a lot of that central information on financial support is on the council website. And then there is other support out there, because we understand sometimes it's not all about finance. I mean, I think one of the downsides yesterday, obviously we were disappointed about what tier what we went into, but I suppose we're realistic that a lot of the areas who would be visiting York this Christmas are in tier 3 and are not able to come to the city. And I suppose I'm realistic that is going to be a lot of lost spend, because the spend that someone from further afield comes, it often includes hotels, multiple meals out, a bit of retail therapy. And so yes, we're realistic that is a tough loss. And on the basis that a lot of businesses make a lot of their turnover in the weeks leading up to Christmas. So I suppose really actually it was more just to back up a little bit what Sean was saying. We'll be marketing to the local community as much as we can do in that kind of local North Yorkshire area, just to reassure businesses that's something that we will pull out all the stops on, because we need that local market to support the city centre. And I do think we will have that. I mean, it's been interesting just seeing the amount of people just out enjoying the Christmas lights. I think there'll be that appetite to come in and support. And for anybody local who is watching, I would say please support your bricks and mortar in particular, because we understand a lot of people will have switched done a certain amount of shopping online, but I cannot emphasize enough how important it is what you spend on the high street or your local areas. That gives those businesses a better chance of getting through to hopefully happier times in 2021. So yeah, that'll be my summary.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And I know the joy of going first means you've taken everyone else's possible comments. So over to you, Sean.
Yeah, well, really, just to I suppose reinforce what Andrew's saying. Do look at those websites and find out what support there is. So, as I say, Make It York, CYC, the LEP website. Do shop locally online where you can't come in. And then I think the other thing is, and Sharon may correct me if I'm wrong on this, but my understanding is there is scope for a change of tier and a change of regulation on the 16th of December. So I would say do let us know your experience in terms of the impact on you as a business, the current regulation. And CYC, Make It York and local MPs, etc., will be lobbying central government. So if we can make a case and ensure it's safe and everything else as given, then there is still potential to have another look at the tier level. So as I say, please do let us know the impact you're experiencing.
Thank you very much, Sean. And I know ministers have never had so many letters from York this year. We've all done, all of our institutions have all done a great job lobbying, and will continue to do so. Councillor Andrew Waller, would you mind if I come to you and then I'll wrap up?
Clearly, a lot's been said. There's a lot of help available, and also if you as a business can't see a particular offer, there are a number of organisations to contact just to put your question to them. Somebody will know the answer, or if they don't, the council has been lobbying for those that have felt missed out. And obviously there are a lot of micro businesses, self-employed people in the city, and we recognise that there are a lot of those who have missed out, and we continue to make the case because that's a significant amount of employment across the city. that's involved there. And I'll pass on to Neil.
Thank you so much, Neil. Neil, we've not got long, but over to you.
30 seconds. All those businesses that think they might be eligible for the additional restrictions grant, the deadline for applications is the 7th of December. That's a government deadline. So that's when so the period of lockdown, if you were asked to close down, you need to make that application by the 7th of December. That's a national government deadline that we've been given. So just that message to you all.
Thank you very so much, Neil. With that and with an eye on time, I'll wrap up. And I see I hope we've answered you, Steve. I can't remember quite when we got to it, but probably around 10-15 minutes in, we did get to your question, and I hope the answers helped in terms of people coming from tier 3 answers, tier 3 places rather. I've not got anything great to say other than a massive thank you to Anthony, Sharon, Nigel, Andrew Lowson, Neil, Sean, and Councillor Andrew Waller. I know we will continue to have these Facebook Live Q&As, including one on Monday. So if we've not managed to get to your question today, then do consider tuning in on Monday, and we'll hopefully get to your question then. And I think as we've heard, especially on many subjects tonight, from business support to mental health support, now is a very, very tough time, and going into a new tiered system doesn't necessarily change that for a great deal of people. So keep looking out for one another and continue to stay safe, shop local, and most of all, try and have a good weekend. So thank you ever so much for everyone tuning in.